Tariffs that President Trump has imposed on multiple trading nations. The Court of International Trade has ruled against President Trump on these tariffs. His global tariffs have been blocked by the Trade Court. The federal court has said that Trump has exceeded his authority to impose tariffs under the IEEPA authority, so blocking Trump from imposing these sweeping tariffs on imports under emergency powers. This was a lawsuit that's been on foot since early May, and the US Court of International Trade have been hearing arguments challenging Trump's tariffs. They were filed by 5 domestic businesses arguing that the law that Trump invoked to impose his so-called reciprocal tariffs does not actually give him the power that he claims. So we've seen that pushback now from the Federal Trade Court, the US Court of International Trade, blocking Trump's sweeping tariffs under these reciprocal tariffs that he's sort of been using under emergency powers. So this could have meaningful implications when it comes to the trade war, Paul. We're seeing the reaction when it comes to the yen decline and other market assets as well at the moment.
All right, let's get a little bit more on this. Garfield Reynolds joins us. Garfield, we're already seeing futures ticking a little bit higher off the back of this news. What sort of response could this provoke in markets?
Never dull, is it?
No, it's never dull. It's never dull. There I was actually thinking that perhaps the thing that might disrupt markets today was Marco Rubio talking about revoking China's student visas. But no, not at all. That's old news. That was 5 minutes ago. Yeah, exactly. No. So, I mean, it's a double-edged sword here for markets. On the one hand, the idea that Trump will not be able to impose tariffs in the way he has, that's obviously good for equities that are still lower than they were at Inauguration Day, and most of that is because of concerns about tariffs. Problem is, of course, how will the Trump administration respond? This is a particular court, the Court of International Trade, now I may be in error here because I haven't been able to read in fully, but my understanding is this is a case that was brought by a group of small businesses who have said that the tariffs represent an existential threat to them because they can't get by without imports, and even if you are going to acknowledge the idea that these tariffs will force alternative manufacturers to set up in the US, by the time they do that, these small businesses will be out of business. So that's their thesis. The court has upheld that, says that Trump doesn't have the authority. Undoubtedly, this will be appealed, to the higher courts. We have already had the sight of the Trump administration declining to, being criticized for not properly acceding to what the Supreme Court has asked them to do when it comes to deportations, claiming that you cannot get in the way of the president's exercise of his foreign policy powers. Perhaps, I'm no legal expert, perhaps the Trump administration will make similar claims here, so we could get a lot more volatility, seeing as Trump has been so very, very determined that tariffs are a key part of his policies. So will he stand by and let the courts tell him he can't use it? He's certainly going to fight this. Where that fight takes us could end up being a much darker place for risk assets than the simple idea that the tariffs are going to go away. For today, especially with NVDIA having already supplied a solid lead, I would expect that equities will rally at least until, with as ever the concern that we could be 1 or 2 tweets away from some more volatility.
In the meantime, though, there's so many other cross currents because, as you say, adding to the complication is that President Trump has, at least in a temporary sense, walked back a lot of these tariffs. There's a number of pauses on hold with China, ongoing trade discussions as well. The murkiness is just quite extraordinary, isn't it?
Oh, it's extremely extraordinary, and that's part of what I was talking about with that ancient history area where the revocation of Chinese student visas, the reports from the FT that the Trump administration is pushing or telling a range of US chip software producers not to export things to China. NVIDIA's concerns about how it can't export chips to China. all of this is underlining that US-China relationship remains a difficult one. Investors have been operating on the assumption that the current 30% China tariffs are, a kind of a ceiling that might come down, but it should probably be better regarded as a floor that's not going to go away, and there has to be concern that it could go higher. You also wonder how willing China will be to compromise with the US when it's getting this sort of pushback. So that is a major concern. The uncertainty, the difficulty in being sure. Remember, it's less than a week since President Trump came out and said he was going to impose 50% tariffs on the European Union, and then took that away. So that's a feature, even if we might wish it was a bug of the current environment. The other thing that I just really quickly want to mention, because I thought of it, in amongst all this, the other risk that's looming over markets is, what does this decision do to bonds? If you think tariffs are going to go away, and if you think that means that US growth is going to rise, it's unlikely that this would move the Fed to resume rate cuts as things are now. So if you think that growth is going to be better, does that mean that yields go up? We barely escaped yesterday without major fallout from Japan's rather difficult 40-year auction. So global bonds are on something of a knife edge if this sets off a sell-off, if this sets off strong buying of equities and strong selling of bonds. That could also lead to some fresh disruptions out there.
All right, never a dull moment. Garfield Reynolds, who leads our M Live coverage in Asia. Thanks so much for joining us. Still to come, we're going to get the outlook for New Zealand's economy. We're going to speak to RBNZ Governor Christian Hawkesby. It's his first broadcast interview with international media. Much more ahead as well. This is Bloomberg.